Hi, Danette May here, and welcome back to the show. I'm so glad to have you back, and I'm really excited because I'm in New York City during this episode, and I got to sit down with legendary Mel Wells, who's a former actress, soap opera star, and you are not gonna believe her story. She's leading the charge on helping people have a healthy relationship with food. Most of you watching this have sometime in your life, if not right now, have some type of dysfunction with food, whether that's you judging yourself for what you're eating, or even just telling food that's going in your body that it's bad or it's gonna make you overweight or not be good for you. And I really want to help people on this mission to really have a beautiful relationship with food, because food is medicine. Food is here for your healing. And I cannot wait for Mel Wells to drop some truth bombs for all of us so that we can have a better relationship with it, so that we can really step into our power as women and men to really know that food can be your avenue for optimal health. Well, I'm so excited to have you here. It's actually really beautiful to be in your presence because I've only watched you from a social media platform, which we tend to do with a lot of people, but to actually be in a presence of someone who you've watched and to feel even more of a depth is really quite beautiful. So I'm so excited to get into all of who you are and just to feel your warmth. It's amazing. Thanks for being here.
I feel the exact same way. I followed you and we have so many mutual friends, and I've followed your journey recently, and yeah, it's amazing to actually meet you in person and be around you, because you're even better in real life.
Yeah. And you can't usually always say that. Not always,
Yeah.
not always.
Yeah.
So what we do here on this show is, because Mel and I have kind of a similar journey, I'm going to find out what this journey is. And she's really on this mission for self-love for women around the world. What was that refiner's fire moment for you that really got you to this deep, like, this is my mission, this is why I want to do this?
Wow, okay. So first and foremost, before I even kind of came into the self-help industry, it was not like what I wanted to do. I didn't kind of grow up thinking I want to help loads of women.
Yep.
I grew up wanting to be an actress, and I am still an actress, but like that was my first passion. And I, was very competitive. I was a perfectionist, and I got into the acting world. I actually got a TV role on a soap opera and was on a soap opera in the UK for 2 years. And so kind of was thrown into that industry at quite a young age. I went on when I was 18 and was there till I was 21. And myself being already high perfectionism, very competitive woman, it was also around the time of, remember when like there was the size 0 trends, and it was like really kind of almost like glamorized and glorified to be as thin as possible. And it was, I was really, really impressionable, late teens when that was happening. And I got as an actress or wannabe actress, I got completely sucked into that world. I started dieting with my friends.
It's like the cool thing to do.
It was the cool thing to do. We were skipping lunches together. We were like over exercising, missing meals, going on crazy liquid diets. And because I was so hyper competitive, I had to go all in. And what started out as like, maybe we should cut carbs, maybe we should try and lose a few pounds, turned into like a full-blown eating disorder for me. I became anorexic in college, and then when I got the role on the soap opera, it flung the other way and it became extreme binge eating, which turned into bulimia, which turned into addiction to diet pills, addiction to laxatives, addiction to throwing up, addiction to exercise.
Wow.
Yeah, so I really hit it at all angles, and I was an extreme undereater and I was an extreme overeater, and really battled with food for so many years. And the first kind of big wake-up call for me was losing my dad to cancer very fast. And before that happened, I had always looked at food as like a game to play. Like, what's the lowest calories that I can get away with? I was drinking a lot of Diet Coke, like I said, having fat burners, low sugar this, 0 calorie that, like all just terrible, like not healthy food, just like it was all about numbers for me. And when my dad passed away, I started researching loads about cancer, discovered all about the plant-based way of living. Became a very preachy vegan.
Because you go all in.
Went all in, exactly. Went all in, like became super vegan, then went raw, did all the juice cleanses, and was really ham on that for a while. And that's what kind of got me into health coaching, because I was like, I'm going to help the world go vegan. This is my mission. And, kind of didn't realize that me doing that was just another way for me to express an eating disorder. So I developed a different type of eating disorder through orthorexia and just being extreme vegan, raw, gluten-free, everything free, juicing all the time.
Do you ever hear this, people? Like this idea of health being quite extreme, because now it's like unhealthy extreme to like almost a healthy extreme, which is just could be just as addictive.
Completely. And I was kind of spent a lot of time in denial, thinking that now I'm super healthy, but the whole time I was still obsessing about weight loss. I was still, obsessing about like the scales. It still wasn't a healthy relationship with food, and I still didn't love myself, which I didn't realize was the key. Now, part of that story that I've not told yet is that I got married very young. I got married when I was 21. Found myself in this marriage with this man who I loved, but ultimately we were completely different. Like if we met now in person, it would be like, we don't even have anything to talk about, right? But we kind of threw ourselves into this marriage. I didn't even know myself at the time. So I obviously had an extremely destructive relationship with myself, got into this relationship where I really felt like he rescued me in a lot of ways, which is a part of the story. It is relevant because this marriage was kind of falling apart and deteriorating, and instead of trying to heal it in healthier ways, I said, well, maybe we need to start trying for a baby. Maybe that will fix it. Maybe that's the next thing. We started having these discussions about trying. I went up to the bathroom and I looked at my body, and I just thought, the very first thing that came into my head with pregnancy was, okay, so how am I going to manage my weight during pregnancy? Am I going to binge for 9 months and then go on an extreme diet as soon as I've had the baby? Am I going to have a vegan pregnancy? How am I going to get back into my jeans? And that was the first thing that came into my head. And I was like, this is so not the kind of mum that I want to be. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to have a healthy pregnancy, I really need to actually stop messing around with my body so much. I need to actually nourish my body. If I'm going to grow a human in here, I need to actually be putting love and nourishment into my body without all these crazy rules that I had. And then I had that moment where I was like, well, if I would do that to grow a child, why am I not doing that for my body now? Why can I not do that for myself? And that was when I had that moment where I kind of heard this voice say to me, you are not ready to be a mother. You have to learn how to love yourself before you can learn to love another baby, another human. And so that was the moment for me where the vision for me, because we didn't have a baby, my self-love journey that I went on led me to such incredible places that we ended up getting a divorce, which was the most incredible thing, and so meant to be for both of us. But it was that moment of realization that led me on a self-love journey. I threw away my scales. I literally threw out every single rule. I started really questioning my entire belief system around food, and I started sharing my journey online. I came out for the first time and said, I've had this eating disorder for so long and I need to talk about it.
Wow.
And this was in 2013, when I think people weren't really being vulnerable online. It was quite a new thing to speak about. Started sharing my journey, and
This was 2013.
Yeah.
So you had your breakdown 2012 or?
2012 was when I lost my dad. 2013 was when I quit my eating disorder.
You were like, this is my journey.
Yeah.
Wow, take notes.
So, yeah.
There's a time with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And since then, I've not stepped on the scales for 6 years. I've not ever been on a diet since. I've never measured, counted, any of that stuff. Literally just chucked it all out and went on a journey of healing my relationship with food, learning to love my body and myself again, because I had such a low self-esteem. And as I was sharing my journey, I realized, wow, lots of people really want this, lots of women really relate to this. So I started sharing my story, started helping people. Before I knew it, that was like my health coaching practice that I thought I'd built to help the world go vegan was actually to help women transform their relationship with food. And then books and retreats and everything since
then. Yeah. Wow. So it started in 2013 and now we're in 2019. This is really quite fascinating. And one thing you mentioned, which I do think we're going to get into a little bit more, is this idea of vulnerability. Because I've been on this research quest of this correlation between vulnerability and self-love. And so I want to hear from you, what does that mean for you when I say vulnerability to self-love?
Well, I think you have to, I've kind of learned, because I've been vulnerable to the point where it doesn't actually feel good.
Okay.
So I've like kind of pushed that and gone into oversharing, and then I felt like, that actually doesn't feel loving for me to share that.
So it's too much.
Yeah, so
we're going to get into that.
Yeah, so I think there's vulnerability that feels like I love myself enough to share this side of me or this part of me.
I'm not going to hide it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm not going to hide it anymore. This is who I am. I'm going to reveal this aspect of myself that I've been hiding. But then, there's also, you can kind of push vulnerability into oversharing, which actually feels like self-shaming, I think, sometimes.
Ooh, this is juicy.
Yeah, and then that's not self-love. And I think we know what feels loving towards ourselves and what doesn't. It's all about that intention. Just like with exercise, you can do the same workout from a place of hate and fear and punishment for my body, or you can do the exact same workout because I love my body and this feels amazing and I'm going to celebrate my body. The same workout, but completely different intention going into it, and it changes everything.
So what do you say, because I talk a lot about vulnerability hangover, because I get this quite a bit, and I don't actually think I overshared. So where's this correlation? I came from a good place. It came from a good intention. It felt right in the moment, and then it's like 4 hours later in the silence of the night, I'll get like this fear of, did I share too much? Not remembering what I said, feeling like I laid my heart out, but not knowing if it was too much, and also just, was it understood the way I really meant? Do you ever get that?
I do, yeah. And I think you always kind of get, I don't want to say validation, but kind of confirmation in the way that it's received through the messages that you get. And I think when you share something that is really vulnerable and, quite revealing, if you're then getting people say, thank you so much, that's helped me so much, then you know that you weren't just kind of sharing it to air things, it would actually help people. Certainly, like, I've shared things about my divorce and, my books about my eating disorder that was like pretty graphic stuff, and people have said, thank God someone understands me, someone gets it. The stuff that I used to do with food, oh my God, like disgusting. Like, I mean, eating out of bins, addiction, it's an addiction. And just like drug addicts, have just horrible behaviors around drugs. It's the same with food, but I think a lot of people have crazy addictive patterns around food, but we're not treating it in the same way as we treat drug addiction, but it is the same. In fact, it's a lot harder to break a food addiction because we have to be in a relationship with food every day.
Yeah, you can't be like, I'm just not going into the bar, or I'm not going to hang out with those friends. You're like, everyone eats all the time.
Yeah, you can't go sober from food, so it's like a relationship that you have to nurture and cultivate.
Okay, so I want to ask, if someone's listening and on this journey, because ultimately this is a healing journey from addiction, and it doesn't matter what the addiction is. So let's talk in the language of food for now. What would be that first step that you took?
So for me, my first step was to actually get really aware of what I was most addicted to and what I was most coping with. And for me, I was addicted to fitness apps, like tracking apps to track calories, and I was addicted to the scales. I went cold turkey from both of those things. I deleted, I got them out. I really believe the things that we don't want to give up are the things that we most need to give up, right? So
find the thing that you're like, nope, not that one, I'll go here.
Yeah.
And then
that's what you need to get rid of. People that are like watching this, that are like stepping on the scales every single morning or tracking every single piece of food through an app, and they're thinking, I'm sure I can do this but still keep my app, or I'm sure I can do this and still weigh myself every day. No, like, you have to be really honest with yourself, like where you are really like what your coping mechanisms are and what you're like dependent on and relying on and addicted to, and you've got to be really honest with that, and be willing to surrender it.
Did you have to do some healing around where this stemmed from? Like where did my connection to food and controlling my life around food come from, and go there and heal that, or no?
Yeah.
And how did you do that? What did you do?
Completely. Well, it's just kind of retracing all of the, like, way back into your childhood to like all of your patterns around your body. Like, when were you first made aware of your body?
Okay, I'm gonna back up. So you just said, like, you got to remember, you got to go back in time. So someone listening is going to be like, do I lay on a couch? Do I just take a day to do this? Like, how did you go back? How did you find that root source?
First and foremost, if you are on this journey, what you are most concerned with right now is like, how do I function in the present day? So I think you want to start with like looking at your patterns and habits in the present day. For example, I notice that every time I'm stressed, I turn to chocolate. Or for example, every time I'm alone in the house, I want to binge or something. So you want to look at those habits and patterns and go, when did I first experience this? Where does this come from? Where did I first kind of experience this? Where did I learn this? And if you can then use that to kind of go, okay, well, I did that actually when my parents first broke up. I remember like I'd be really healthy at my mum's house, and then when I would go to my dad's house, I would binge, or, you know, whatever it is. Or, you know, I used to go around to my nan's house and have just like gorging on chocolate together. And oftentimes that's what it is. It's like emotional attachments to food from our childhood when that actually represent love. You know, so we attach food with love or connection or loneliness or sadness. I mean, you know, a lot of us grew up going to McDonald's, and the emotional marketing there is like Happy Meal, you know, make yourself happy by getting a McDonald's.
Totally.
So all these kind of things that we had no idea was happening to us through like our emotional attachments to food. But I think it is really important that we are healing this in the present. So you can look back and go through into your past and, you know, dig deep and understand where these come from. But what's really going to help you is learning some tools that are going to help you in the present. So if you can understand, for example, that you associate chocolate with love, then you can go, okay, I figured out that when I'm really hungry for chocolate all the time, what I think I'm craving is loads of chocolate. What I'm actually craving is love.
What can I do to give myself love right now?
Exactly.
Wow. So the mac and cheese that you're eating, because that would be mine. You're really going, where am I not giving myself love and pleasure? Or where am I not giving myself something that's creating this craving? And then do you have like a list of stuff that you're like, okay, this is my list of love.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'll just go get myself that.
Yeah,
instead.
exactly.
Wow.
I think for us all to cultivate a self-love practice, and like you said, like a list of kind of go-to things that make us feel love, you know, that feel like us giving love to ourselves is so important. When we diet and when we kind of go on restrictive eating plans, we can lose a lot of the pleasure from food.
Yes.
So I'm like big on like, I want you to eat the mac and cheese. I want you to have the chocolate, right? Because it's a pleasurable experience. And I think women have lost touch with their pleasure.
Yes.
However,
thank you.
It's again all about intention, right? If you are scoffing down this mac and cheese and it feels like stress and like fear and I've got to get rid of it.
And stuffing it down and numbing everything out and making it feel full down here. Yeah.
Exactly. But you can eat the same mac and cheese in a loving, intentional way.
Totally.
You can sit it down, you can light a candle, you can, you know, bless your food, you can eat slowly, you can enjoy it, and then you can feel like, oh, that was so nourishing. But same mac and cheese, you wolf it down, you scoff it down, you're going to feel like terrible afterwards.
Yeah.
It's all about the intention.
What are your thoughts on intention with food before it enters the body? Like, do you have any studies or any beliefs on what happens on a molecular structure to that food when you set an intention or you look at it lovingly before you put it in your body?
Well, there was the study with water molecules, wasn't there?
Totally.
So, like, when we
do know this.
Yeah. Yep. So like when, like, I mean, like how much of water is in food, right? So if that's doing that to water, it must be doing it to food, and it must be doing it when we say it to our own bodies, because we are made up of 75% water, right? So,
and it actually works on food too. So they did the study on like a water molecule, but then there's been study on grains of rice and all different kinds of studies, plants, different living items, and it actually does the exact same thing. If you say negative things to a grain of rice, it will actually start molding versus the grain of rice that you're saying positive to, or even just ignoring. So it's
completely
powerful.
And I mean, for me, when I kind of know this as well, like from personal experience, when I was really struggling with an eating disorder, I would eat food in so much fear and so much hatred for the food and for myself that I would gain weight so fast. Whereas now I can eat the exact same food with love, with respect for myself, and I don't gain weight from it, right?
I think this is really powerful to note because not a lot of people are talking about this. She already did the experiment on herself, and she literally ate the same amount, just the intention, the energy behind it made all the difference.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, it's important to note, again, I have no rules around food. I have no diets. I don't restrict anything. I eat everything now. I'm not vegan. I've not been vegan for a long time.
You're not anything, right?
I'm not anything, right? I eat whatever I want, but I have a good relationship with food. I don't eat past the point of full, and I don't starve myself. I have a good relationship with exercise again. And I'm the same size, you know, I've nothing's, you know.
The body's quite intelligent. We don't give it the credit it deserves because it's actually quite intelligent. So I'm going to back up. You basically said there's an awareness first of what are the touch points in the current present moment of your life. Remove those touch points. They're usually the ones that you're like, oh, no, not that one.
Right.
This one.
The slimming magazines.
Yes.
I think social media as well.
Social media.
Like, if you're only following like before and afters, you know, diet, like if that is all you're seeing, then you know that's what you're going to become. Is you want to be following people that actually inspire you to have a healthy relationship with yourself, self-love,
so
you know, holistic healing, and try and get away from all the numbers because it can be so addictive.
Totally. And then you said you basically remember, like, what is that trigger? Where did that trigger actually come from? Like, sit back and go back, okay, where was this love relationship with that? And usually it's with your childhood. Usually it's like this feeling of love, or I didn't receive this, or there was a traumatic experience. So going back to that, is there another step after you've gone back to that space?
There's another side of that is control. So a lot of, you know, disordered relationships with food stem from, you know, not being able to control an aspect of your life or feeling out of control. And then, you know, food is the easiest thing for us to control. We think I can control food, or I can control my body, and then I will feel in control. So just recognize where you're trying to control your life through food. I think that can be really interesting. And another part of that is, you know, on the flip side, you might not be someone that's been very controlling with food. You might be someone that's just very emotionally led, and all of your emotions, you're not knowing how to deal with your emotions, so you're turning to food. So if you are not someone that's had a disordered relationship with food in terms of like restriction and control, but you are someone that's an emotional eater, then the next step for you is to like really start to get in touch with what those emotions are. What am I feeling before I enter the fridge? What am I feeling when I'm on my way to the shop? You know, because we just go into like zombie mode, and before we know it, we've scoffed something and we have no idea how we got there. You know, so there's a lot of people that fit into more the camp of just emotional eaters, and it's just because they are emotional beings and they're not dealing with their emotions, they're not accessing their emotions and really allowing themselves to feel. They're pushing down with food instead. So for those people, if that is you, that is about really trying to dig deep and understand, what am I feeling? Where does this come from? You know, can we name the feeling? Because a lot of the time we think that we just feel fat, and it's not a feeling. You know, what is it really? What are you really feeling in that moment? And then again, like, where does that feeling come from? Why? Like, if you're feeling frustrated, why? Like, is it something that happened at work? Is it something that, you know, someone let you down earlier today? What is the reason before you turn to food? And if you can heal that, you don't need to then eat, you know, if you can heal that situation.
Wow, you know? So good, so good. So what does Mel do for some healing practices in her daily life now? Because you're on this new path, but healing never stops.
Right.
There's always more healing to be done always,
Yeah.
or there's just ways to keep yourself balanced.
Yeah.
What are some of your daily practices?
Well, in terms of food, I think this is really interesting because I've been, successfully healed from my eating disorder for 6 years. And I think there's a lot of talk around food and eating disorders that basically says you will never fully heal. And I think that's total BS. I think you do absolutely heal. But like you said, the healing journey never stops. And I think the key to transforming our relationship with food is to transform our relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
Right? So same relationship with food, relationship with drink, relationship with other people, relationship with anything, all comes down to the one we have with ourselves. So self-love practice.
So what are those for you?
I do a lot of things for myself out of love. So I make sure that everything that I do is because I love it. Like I don't do things that I don't enjoy.
Wow.
I just do things that I love.
So you say no. If something comes into your space and you're like, I know that would maybe give me ROI or that would be good to do, but it doesn't feel like it's it doesn't feel pleasurable to me, so you say no.
Yeah, it's not just about the pleasure, but it's about does it feel loving for me to do that? Is my future self gonna thank me for that, or is it does it make me feel like,
wow, that's good.
Exercise. I only do exercise that I really love. I eat all the foods that I love. I'm big on journaling. I really love journaling because I think that's just such a great way to be in conversation with yourself. I talk a lot with my audience about self-pleasure, which I think is another really important practice for women that isn't talked about enough, but our relationship with our bodies and our relationship with food are obviously very linked. And oftentimes I've found from women that I work with, if you have a negative relationship with food, it's often parallel to how you feel about sex.
Ooh,
So,
that's deep and juicy. So this is where we're finding this. There's a correlation with food and destructive behaviors of food, and then also with sex.
It's a rejection of pleasure, not being able to receive pleasure, and it's obviously about how we feel about our bodies as well. So there's a lot of correlation there, and I think another key point of that is it's like a rejection of the feminine. When we grow up, around kind of the age of teen years is when we first get introduced to sex, but it's also when we first get introduced to how our bodies are appearing and diets, and kind of we learn that we
it's
need
all
our
kind of
bodies
at the
to
same
look a certain
time.
way.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of women around that age are kind of rejecting their feminine energy.
Wow.
So a lot of this work, for me at least, has been reconnecting with intuition, our bodies, sensuality.
So good. So something I know about Mel is she lived in Bali, and I do want to figure out if you could say 2 things that Bali taught you, because not that everybody's going to go off to Bali, and I hope you guys understand, like for me, this is about bringing these rituals that we learn from these lands. It's not about necessarily having to go to the lands. So what were the things that you feel like the land of Bali taught you that you bring with you today, with you in London?
The first thing that's come up for me is that you are your biggest teacher and you are the oracle. I think, you go to somewhere like Bali, there's a million different healers for a million different things, and you meet a lot of people that are getting constant readings and healings, and I've got to see this person, and I've got to go to this ceremony, and I've got to, it's all like the answers are out there somewhere. And what Bali really taught me was like all the answers are in you, and you can have all these readings and stuff, but it's just going to give you confirmation. You don't want to get reliant on doing that, and I think that's a kind of a really important message for anyone in personal growth in this spiritual world, is that no guru
has more answers than you.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the time what we really need is to just trust ourselves and trust our own knowing, because a lot of the time we do know the answers, we're just scared of them, and we want someone else to tell us them instead.
Yeah, totally. So that was one, and then do you have another one?
Definitely that your environment plays such a key component in your health.
Ooh.
How you feel in relation to your environment is so important. You are around nature. There was actually a study done on addiction with rats, and they put a rat in a cage with 2 bottles of water, and 1 bottle was just normal water. 1 bottle of water was laced with cocaine, and every single time the rat would choose the bottle of cocaine, get addicted to the cocaine and eventually die. Dr. Bruce Alexander kind of took this and said, okay, well, the rat is alone in a cage. It's got nothing else to do. Of course it would take the drugs, because rats are social creatures like humans. So he was like, okay, I'm going to build this amazing rat haven. I'm going to put loads of rats in there. They're going to have rat games, amazing rat food. They're going to have all these kind of crazy cool things that rats can do together, and it's going to be a haven. And then he put the exact same 2 bottles of water in there, one that was laced with cocaine, and the rats completely rejected the drugs and just stayed happy and chose the water. And then they tested it again and basically took completely addicted rats from the solitary cage into the rat park cave, and they got completely sober. So
wow, I've never heard of this study. That's wild.
Yeah, so that kind of really like showed that our cage, like if we're not happy in our cage, we're much more vulnerable to getting addicted to something.
Wow,
so if the cage that we're living in is making us unhappy, making us isolated, making us feel disconnected, we're far more likely to choose the drugs or the food for a lot of people. So how happy is your cage making you? And that cage can be the people that you surround yourself with, it can be your home environment, it can be the country that you live in. If that is not giving you the best chance at optimal health, it's likely that it's actually making you more likely to reach for the wine or reach for the food or reach for the drugs.
Wow, that's so powerful. So I do want to say, like, if you are like, oh man, my cage, this is crazy. Maybe start with, if you can't just move right away, like clean up some of the friends, clean up your home, put some candles in there, de-junk, get rid of things that don't spark joy in your own home.
Exactly.
Start there and see if you can shift your environment by staying, and then if you feel so called and that it's deeper, I've got to get into a whole new environment, go for it.
You can do a lot to shift your energy by just moving furniture around and getting rid of a lot of stuff.
Totally. You know, I've done that. Has anybody done that? Yeah. Tidying, the magic art of tidying up? Totally did it. Felt so good. Yeah. Well, it's been amazing to talk to you, and so I always ask if you could share one message to the one person or the million that's watching. What would that one message be?
100% it would be the relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship you will ever be in. It is the one that you are in for your entire life. So please, please, please work on nurturing that relationship, because how that relationship is will determine the quality of the rest of your life.
Wow. Everything that she talks about, even her books, are going to be linked in the show notes. I'm sending you all so much love. We're all doing this together. We all are on this journey to ultimate health and happiness and freedom. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.